Our next speaker went to the University of California, Irvine, has done everything in his life from lifeguard. He worked at Abercrombie and Fitch, believe it or not. He has worked construction. He has taught English abroad. And he finally found his way into medical device sales to end this career. Well, he thought he was ending his career, and he hated that job so much that when he put his 3-month notice in and the last day was up, he cartwheeled out the front door, never to look back. Those experiences really shaped him, though, and I hear he likes to play poker. Your next speaker is me. Oh, yeah. I don't know. I'm wearing business pants. I don't know if I... Okay, maybe. You know, I actually found the job I'm working in now. I was waiting on the boss of the company at an Italian restaurant I worked at off and on for years and years and years. And I had just gotten out of the medical device gig. And I knew I wanted to be in sales. I knew I wanted to do something more helpful, but I never wanted to go that route again. We had a joke in the industry, what's the difference between a neurosurgeon and God? Well, God doesn't think he's a neurosurgeon. So just the strong personalities, the lack of compassion for the people below him. If it weren't for nurses, nothing would get done in hospitals. These guys, I mean, understandably, they spend 10, 12 years in college hitting the books, so the social skills aren't quite always there, and it really showed when you worked for them. Well, you have personality. They did not. They always say, you know, you judge a man by how he treats someone who can't do anything for or to him. And it was kind of true. They called me Mike Bait for 2 years. They didn't even bother to learn my name, and I was there in the OR with them twice a week for 2.5 years. So I knew I wanted to get into an industry where I could help people, and I found this job. Now, we call it bank card services because it's not just credit cards. And everybody has a debit card. There's a big proliferation of prepaid debit cards. The new ones are called rewards cards, and I'd really like to talk about those because they have absolutely changed the industry. And unfortunately, as business owners, you are taking the brunt of that. To get those miles, to get everything that they offer you with the cards, somebody has to pay for that. And if Visa, MasterCard, and American Express had it their way, nobody would ever carry a balance because they don't know if they're going to get that money. That's why they hit you with those ridiculous interest rates. They don't want you. They want you to pay it off every single month because they're getting their money from Texaco, from Walmart, from Target every time you swipe that card. Hands down, what is the cheapest card for business owners to accept? Can anybody tell me what the cheapest type of card to accept is? ATM card, precisely, 100% ATM card. That money is already in there. We know you already have that money. We are legally mandated to only charge you so much. In fact, with the Dodd-Frank bill, they actually capped it at just a flat rate. But that's only when you punch in your PIN number, because we know how very secure that's going to be. This one's going to throw you. What is the most expensive type of credit card for you as a business owner to accept? Close, not true. Reward is close, not quite there. Corporate cards. Corporate cards are the most expensive cards for you all to accept. And as a small business owner, I have a little corporate card that I use for my own dealings. We aren't the problem. The problem is like Merrill Lynch, some peon who takes the card down to the donut shop and buys 5 dozen donuts, and then the corporation says, whoa, 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 we didn't authorize this charge. And because it's credit, the credit card companies just say, okay, we'll take care of it, that charge is off your bill now. Well, that's why they have to charge you 3.5% to take a corporate card. Those are the most expensive. I'm glad you brought up American Express. American Express, it's its very own animal. I have American Express. I absolutely love them. I will never get rid of my American Express card, but a lot of places don't accept it because they have one flat rate they always accept, and it's not variable. A lot of places don't take Discover. Discover is owned by Visa and MasterCard. Visa and MasterCard was having a good year, and they just bought Discover outright. But the thing about Discover is every single Discover card is a rewards card. So there is no base rate, there is no debit card. Every time you take a Discover, that the customer who's using that is getting points, getting miles, getting goodies, getting telescopes. I don't actually know what they do with their cards. But so Discover can be more expensive than American Express, and a lot of times it is. Same with corporate cards. And I don't want you to just, look at every card and say, no, I'm sorry, we don't take that. Because Visa and MasterCard has said, if you accept one of our cards, you must accept all of our cards. So you have no choice. When Visa's got those rewards cards now, Chase Visa, those things are expensive to take. And there's nothing you can do because you want to take the Visa debit cards. So really what you're trying to do is look at all of these numbers put together and find the lowest effective rate you can. And the lowest effective rate is going to be buried on, what your average ticket size is, how many charges of that size, and what type of cards your clientele are using. I mean, if you're a painting contractor, I think you might get a lot of other contractors or real estate agents paying you with their corporate card. That's going to be more pricey than if you're Swiss Miss Donuts and you're taking debit cards all day, every day. So that's kind of an issue. But the one thing about rewards cards is, as a business owner, you do want to accept them. Last time I spoke, I talked about a terribly named book, but just filled with great information, called How to Be Smarter, Richer, and Better Looking Than Your Parents. And they found out that these rewards cards pay back the customer an average of $25 a month. But the cost of using those cards, each customer who uses that spends about $165 extra a month that they wouldn't use if they weren't using the rewards cards. So it hurts to accept these as business owners. There's not a lot you can do about it because that's the way everything is moving. And every time you turn on a football game, 9 out of 10 commercials are for some credit card, some prepaid Chase card, something like that. And it's just the way things are moving. In fact, I have a friend who was bartending for 10 years, had a drawer in his house just full of cash. And we used to just make fun of him, like, why would you do that? Go to the bank right now. And every single time we went out, he'd pull out his Visa card. He never brought cash with him anywhere we ever went. Every bar, every restaurant, every time we went out, he'd pay with his card because it was more secure. Like I said, when it's credit, they'll just take that charge off. And that's why they charge you those rates, to accept their cards. I think I've hit on just about anything, but does anybody have any questions? Because
how about Square?
Square is a very funny animal, and they have absolutely changed the industry. Now, they charge one high rate, and they actually charge 2.75% for any old card you take. Now they've realized rewards cards are so prevalent that they charge 3.5% for rewards cards. And they charge you more because they would have to pay for it. It's actually fairly cheap because of the amount of fraud they open themselves up to. Please pardon what I'm about to say, but call girls can use Square. And then a client can take that $5,000 charge, call American Express and say, I'm not authorizing that charge. And that charge is then null and void, and Square is on the hook for it. So to make money, Square sells your information. Square sells your macro information, like everything they're mad at the government and the NSA for keeping track of. When you use Square and you let somebody use their Square, you're authorizing them to do the exact same thing, and they use your macro information and they sell it to investors and advertisers. Yeah, there was something else. Oh, yes, and the other thing about Square is on those good charges, say you do a big job and you do get a nice payday for, thank you, sir, for $7,000. Well, Square is now going to investigate that. And they're going to hold your money in escrow. And while they're investigating that, they're investing your money. So as a business owner, if you really start having a good month or a good year, Square is going to hold on to your money while they investigate the claim, and they're going to invest that money and make themselves a profit. Another thing about Square is their customer service is atrocious because they're a foreign-held company. By going through an actual bank, we are a processing bank called Elevon, and that is U.S. Bank. Of course, they don't call it that because banks all are subsidiaries and everything like that. But we go through U.S. Bank, and a small part of why we have to charge you is because we're using a bank to guarantee your money in 1 to 2 business days. We're getting you your money because you've earned it and that transaction has gone through. We are getting your money as soon as possible, whereas Square is going to investigate, invest, and do other things to keep you from getting your money.
Don't you have a Square-like product?
We absolutely do. We have a Square-like product, but what you're getting is the backing of US Bank. And it's just like having any of the other mobile merchant devices, but they're, oddly enough, they're cheaper because they're piggybacking off of your cell phone's wireless network. Now, one thing about ours is, oh, it's $15 a month. Yes, it is, but we heavily encrypt it. I mean, 4-star encryption so that your private information, well, excuse me, your customer's private information isn't able to be snatched out of the thin air. And that's another thing, thank you for bringing that up. Another part of that $15 is what's called PCI Compliance. Everyone remembers Target was ripped off for, what was it, 1 million credit card numbers? They have to prove that they are taking security precautions with all of your private information. And it costs about $100 a year to do that. I'm sure Target is much, much more than that. But then that guarantees you against $100,000 of fraud and liability claims as a merchant owner. So we don't even give you the option. We just say you're getting the PCI compliance because it's very cheap. It's around $100 a year. It's part of your contract, and it's just going to be on there. But then we make sure you do the questionnaire. You know how important it is keeping those card numbers secure, not storing them in a file cabinet that's never locked. It's a really easy kind of questionnaire. But by doing that questionnaire, you've proven to the company that you're taking cardholder information seriously, and they give you $100,000 worth of insurance on that with no deductible.
Awesome.
Yes.
Thank you, Chris.
You got it.
I heard yesterday that the credit cards are coming with a microchip, and then you have to have a new debit card machine that's going to be able to read that.
It's absolutely going that way. We are well behind the rest of the country, the rest of the planet. Oddly enough, what happened first was Americans all started using credit cards. We came up with the technology in the 80s to accept them. Europe didn't get into using cards until maybe 10, 15 years later when there was greater security and greater protection. So they used a different type of card with a chip. Well, now nobody in America wants to foot the bill to change out all the cards and all the readers and stuff like that. It's coming, but because everybody's fighting over it right now, it keeps getting pushed back.
Okay.
As of last year, it was at the end of 2015, and I guarantee it won't be any time before then. They keep fighting and pushing it back.